My name is Jennifer, and I like to talk about Experience Cloud. This is a more advanced video, and I'm going to talk about one of the challenges that I've had with Experience Cloud and how I solved them. You're going to see things here that you already have to know how to do. You need to know how to use Salesforce, the basic admin. You should have created your own Experience Cloud site. If you have not created your own Experience Cloud site, please go take a look at my playlist on an Experience Cloud site step by step. What we're talking about today is for authenticated users. Those are users who log in. For instance, if they logged in and created a case, they wanted to follow the status. This is a continual challenge, and how you solve it takes a lot of time, and every use case is different. Security in Experience Cloud is layered on top of all the security in Salesforce, and it can make a very complicated system. I will show you a very simple use case, and we'll talk about it. I have created a user and an Experience Cloud site. This is a very basic Experience Cloud site where they can go and click and see their cases. The user I am right now is Anith McDuffie. And I'm going to show you what you start with. I do have a list view that I have shared with customer users. That's all open cases. And right now, Anita only gets to see her own because of the nature of the way Salesforce security settings are. The first thing is when you're working in Experience Cloud sites, you need to not only deal with the default internal access to your objects, but also the external access. And what I mean is internally, whenever you have users, if you're setting up users and allowing them to do things, you're setting up the objects and then giving them access also with a profile. It is the same with Experience Cloud, except you have a whole column right here of access you provide that's different than internal users. The best practice is to keep it locked down and as secure as possible. These are my main site settings, which is sharing settings of each one. And I've already gone through right now. We're talking about cases. So I put it on private. That means they only get to see their own. And you have to have the account private as well. If you scroll down to the very bottom, one of the things that's really important with Experience Cloud when you're dealing with cases is to check this box right here. Grant site users access to related cases. And that says anybody with the Customer Community Plus license, which you have to have that or more, they can view and edit cases which they're listed as the contact. So you want to have that box checked because the record ownership is whoever owns the record in a private model is whoever gets to see it. But on case records, they don't own them, but they are listed as the contact. So that's just one item. And then I have set up a profile for this site and assigned it to a niece. If we go look at that accounts, I have given her read access because you need at least read access to look at a case. If we go to cases, read, create, and edit, that has been set up. That's essentially what we're seeing here. If I go into my builder in Experience Cloud, let us go to all sites. What I just clicked on, that tab is one that I'm using with a Chrome extension called Y Salesforce, WHY Salesforce. You can set them up. Otherwise, you can type it in and go here. I set these up because they're where I go most of the time. And then if I go into the builder, I can see the site. This is the one I set up to view cases. On the back end, on the case page, I have a list view. And if I left it as a full list view, it will give them the option to toggle between different list views. If you want to limit what they're seeing, and I do, we're going to go to standard. And I actually chose the list view that I want to show here. And that's how I have it set up. And that is what Anise is seeing here. So she's rightly seeing any of them where she's listed as a contact. What if I want everybody from the same company to see the related cases? That's where I'm going to go and make some adjustments. There are sharing settings or sharing rules that you can set up. It's a longer and more complicated process when you're dealing with Experience Cloud. One of the best places to go are sharing sets. You type in digital experiences here at the top, and then you go to settings. On this page, I'm going to create a sharing set by hitting new. And this is going to be for the portal customer users. So that's what I'm going to name it. And the profile I'm using right here will grant anybody with this profile the same access. I want to grab the case object and say, this is what we're working with. Now I did grab 2 or 3 objects, and every time you add one, it adds it here for you to set up, but I don't want to do the event object. So we're just going to leave it for cases. Now I need to set it up. And this is where you're going to base your criteria. So I'm going to say it's the user's contact record. So it's going to look at their contact record associated with the user and their account and matches on a case the account field. And then I'm going to give them read access to that. We're going to hit update. Now we're not done yet. It feels like you're done, but you're not. You've got to hit save down here one more time. It'll take a minute for it to all come in effect, and we're going to refresh. This is a small org, so we might be able to see it now. Sometimes it takes a minute or two because as it's creating sharing rules, it's got to do other things to set them in place on the back end. I'm just going to double check that I set it up right. We're saying if the user's contact account matches the case account, let's go see that. And I'm going to look at the cases and make sure I'm picking that. So if we have, I know Anise, her user contact account name is Dreamforce. And if I go back to the same list, let's make sure we got the other ones set up right. Stella from Dreamforce. Let's look at the case. The case contact name is here. Account name is there. And if it hasn't done it yet, I'm going to try one more thing. Okay, it took me a moment. These are one of the things that happen. I had the wrong profile over here. It was a partner community user. It is the portal customer profile. So I reverted back to the user. Their contact account needs to match the case account. Let's hit save. And these are one of the things that you have to work with in Experience Cloud. You just got to keep adjusting things. And now we're seeing it. Anybody who has the Dreamforce account, now I can see it and share it. Another thing that I run into is that once you settle these, people usually say, okay, I'm done, but you're not, because every single one of these is a clickable link. The first thing I want to see is, are we exposing too much information? I'm going to start with Anisa's case number. I open that up, and on the detail page here, I'm seeing a lot of extra stuff that we do not want her to see. Let's go over here to the case objects. I went to the case or the object manager, and I'm going to go to the case. I'm going to pop it open. And right now, I am going to see the page layout. I want to see the page layout assignments. My portal profile customer right here has the case layout, but that's not what I want them to have. I'm going to make a new one just for people in the portal. And we're going to say portal case layout. I'm going to base it off of the original case layout, but then I'm going to change it. Right now, she's seeing a lot of things we don't need her to see. We're going to remove all buttons, even though right now, the way we have it set up, we don't have a banner where she can see. It is best practice to get everything off that they could potentially see no matter how the setup is. If somebody went in and added something without paying attention, it could update this, especially a record banner, because that's where the buttons are held. It is a separate component in Experience Cloud. I'm going through the process of removing everything. You want to hide as much as possible. And when we look at it, oh, I see more. We want to get rid of all of these, so many buttons. When you have more than one Experience Cloud site, you remember to keep your org-wide defaults as restrictive as possible, and then use those sharing settings to open things up. That way, on one site, they might be able to see each other's information, and on another site, you don't want them to. I don't want case owner on here. There's really no need for that. Maybe case number, contact name will be fine, account name. That's really up to us. If we want to leave type, we'll leave case reason, phone, priority. We'll take priority. Let's see. Is it going to let us take it off? There's a few items that it does not let you take off. First of all, anything with an asterisk is required, so they're going to leave it there. We'll say that so we don't need a lot of this information. You can choose what you want left on there and what you want removed. Anywhere you see a minus, you can remove it. But if there's no minus, it will not let you do that. We don't need any related lists, but I haven't exposed any. But in case somebody changes the component, I'm just going to pull off all the related lists so we don't accidentally expose something. And it looks like some of these are going to be required. Just for this, we're just going to leave them on. I'm going to save that. I need to assign that, the portal case layout, to our portal user right here. I'm going to hit edit. I'm going to go to my portal customer profile, click this, and switch it to the portal case layout. Now I'm going to hit save. Anise is already logged in, so let's just refresh and see what she sees. Much better. See how I cleaned that up? Make sure you always have them have their own page layout, so you're only exposing what they want. Another thing is, let's go back to my cases. This list I made especially for the portal, and I placed it on the page. And when you do that, so if we go back to the list, you have to make sure your sharing settings are set up for sharing the list view. Let's go to my open cases. And I'm going to look at the sharing settings, and you can see where I had clicked this. It says public group. I chose a public group, and on that, I had the public group, all customer portal users, which is part of it. So that allows them to see it. Make sure they also have their own list views, and you can hide them by, if I put a list view on here and I did the full list view, it allows me to change these. I really don't want them to see all that. This is not a dedicated object to them. I am going to change it to standard, and they can't change it. Let's go back to her cases. I know when I click on cases that I have an assigned page now. That's cleaned up. What happens if I click on subject? Good. It just takes us to the case page. What if I click on, let's go back to cases, my name. What am I seeing? This is taking me to my contact record. Okay. And again, we're going to have the same things. Do we want them to see all this? Probably not. I'm going to go to Object Manager, Contact, look at the page layout. And I know it's this page layout. I'm going to create a new page layout. And this is called Portal Contact Layout. I did forget to base it off of the other one, but I'll just do it this way. I'm going to pull off all these buttons. I'm going to pause it while I take care of this. Okay, so I've removed the buttons and got that cleaned up. And one thing I want to point out is, even though you don't see these mobile and lightning actions, if they went on mobile, they will see them. I've got name, account name. Let's just add, say, birthday and who knows, mobile, right? Put these over here, even them out. I'm going to hit save, and then we're going to assign it. We're going to hit edit assignment right away because I know I'm going to move that portal user. We've got the portal user profile right there, and I'm going to give them the portal contact layout. Okay. Now I'm going to refresh Anissa's page here, and we've cleaned up the contact page. I also see something else I can click through right there. This is the account page. I'm going to want to go do that. I will set up a new account page, and I will do that in the object manager again under account. Okay, so I created an account layout just for the portal user. I just assigned it to them. We're going to go and make sure Anise is only saying a little bit. We've cleaned that up. I see something click. What happens when I click on that? It takes me to Google Maps. And that is because the site I'm using has Google Maps. This is not something that's always going to be there. Let's see if it lets me remove that off the page layout for this. And let's just take the full billing address and shipping address off and see if that solves it. You'll notice these things as you work on Experience Cloud. You've got to get the back end sharing set up, and then you also have to set up the front end. I've removed that, not giving them access to other places on the site that I don't want. If we go back to my cases, I've given her access to cases for other people in her company, to her own account. And let's click on here. This is just the case. That's good. We've got account. If I click this, it's just going to send me to an email. And then the other thing is, do I have access to Lauren? No. And that is correct because Salesforce has not let me open up the contact. It is a private contact. We can try to use a sharing setting and open those up. But right now, I don't want to do that. I did want to talk about all of this. Sharing and visibility is a huge priority in Experience Cloud. Once you set it up, always remember to go in and log in as somebody and see what you're allowed to see. What are you clicking on and where are you getting to? That is something that is highly overlooked, is clicking on every link and seeing what happens and then making sure someone doesn't have too much access. I know that this ran long, but this is just one of the things that you do with Experience Cloud, and every use case is different. I've been in orgs where they get to see everything or they only want to see some. Everyone is different, and you have to be careful with security. I guess going back to one of the reason I made this video is one of the top challenges to date, and is always going to be a challenge, is the security. Solving it is just learning to get in there and move things around and do a lot of testing. And remember to always do it in a sandbox.